press, and we have Mike Gildersleeves, who is the Principal Planning Officer. Russell Chick, over to the table to my right, is the Principal Environmental Planning Officer. Sarah Wilkinson is also a Principal Planning Officer. Alan White is here representing Highways. I have Justin Thorne to my left, he's our legal advisor, and in front of me is Marie Bartlett. We also have Paul Fuller here, the executive member for planning and licensing. I'd just like to explain the fire alarm procedure. There's no tests planned for this evening, therefore if the alarm does sound, it will. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Stokes.
Chair, not a declaration of interest, but may I ask the Chair's permission to leave after item 2 on the agenda, as I was not present at the site visit for item 3.
Of course. Councillor Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to declare that I am a member of Abbeyfield, West White. West White Abbeyfield has no connection at all with the Abbeyfield proposed on Cross.
Councillor Medland.
Like Councillor Stubbings, I was not present for the site visit for item 3.
Thank you. I'll move now to public question time. Do we have any questions from the public gallery on matters not related to items on the agenda? I'll move then to paper B. The first item that we'll be hearing this evening is item reference P00966/14, land adjacent to Blanchard's Moortown Lane and between Upper Lane and Main Road, Bryston, Isle of Wight. 507/14, Warlands survey parcels 5819, 8116 and 8200, land to the rear of 18 to 34 Fleetway and adjacent to Hayville Cottage, Warlands Lane, with access of Main Road, Shalfleet, Newport, Isle of Wight. And I will hand over to Russell Chick to present this item. Russell.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. Yes, just before I start the main presentation, I just want to draw members' attention to the schedule of late reps. There's a couple of issues on the late rep schedule. One of them is in relation to a question asked on the committee site is relating to local need. And the second one relates to merely information relating to section 278 highway agreement. Turning to the main planning application then, the application site is located to the west of Shalfleet, to the west of existing modern housing, which can be seen at the point of the cursor. Members will remember seeing the site on Friday. Adjacent to the site is a line of modern houses, part of the Fleetway estate. The application site extends to an area of 1.4 hectares. It's currently an arable field, grade 3B agricultural land. The site is located 470 metres west of the centre of the core of Shalfleet. Just an OS parcel, just to show the location of the application site at the point of the cursor. It's located to the south of the main Newport to Yarmouth Road. To the south of the site is an area of sink woodland, it's ancient woodland, known as Pongos Copse, and the yellow area on at the top of the slide denotes the AOMB. Application site is therefore adjacent to the AOMB and close to the sink to the south. There's no other designations relating to the site and are no listed buildings in close proximity to it. Just some quick photographs then of the application site as it currently stands. The top two photographs taken looking westbound on the A3054. The application site is located to the rear of the hedge line adjacent to the highway, and then looking eastbound, looking towards the more modern houses in Fleet Way. The application site, as I said, is currently farmland. Members will note, seeing the state of that farmland during a site visit, it is clay, and that's the reason why it's been classified as 3B farmland. Then just looking further east towards the centre of the village, it's important to note that the historic core of the village can't be seen from the application site, and that the most relative section of the village is the modern housing in Fleet Way. And then looking towards another neighbouring property, hidden behind these trees is Shalfleet House, situated about 40 metres from the application site. The proposed development will comprise 24 dwellings of mixed tenure. That would be to meet a local need. A mix of 12 houses, 10 bungalows and 2 flats. 75% of the dwellings would be for affordable housing. There will be a proposed new access onto the A3054 and new bus stops and pedestrian links on the site towards the village centre will be provided. Looking at the plan of the site, the western side of the site, at the point of the cursor currently, would include bungalows. They would be adjacent to the field boundary. And then on the eastern side of the site, there would be the 2-storey buildings. They would comprise the 10 dwellings and 2 flats close to the site entrance. The cursor at the moment is hovering over the point of the proposed access. And it's important to note that each of the houses will comprise 2 parking spaces. Each of the flats would comprise a single parking space. It's important also to note at this stage that this application is an outline. Scale, appearance and layout are the current matters for consideration as well as access, but detailed landscaping would be agreed at reserved matters should this application be approved. Moving on to proposed housing then, that would include bungalows. This is a slide showing how they would appear. There'd be a mix of brick and timber elevations with tile roofs. And then the block of flats, which should be located to the north of the site, and also the proposed 2-storey dwellings. They would be arranged as pairs of semi-detached dwellings and short terraces. The proposed access is shown, probably easiest to look at the top depiction on this slide. That would include a right-hand turn lane for eastbound traffic and suitable visibility slopes also. It would be located about 100 metres from the western boundary of Fleet Way. Main considerations then would be the principle of the proposed development, design, impact on nearby properties, ecology, highway considerations and flooding and drainage issues. In terms of planning policy then, the site is located within the wider rural area. There is no settlement boundary within the parish of Shalfleet, so it is all in the wider rural area. Shalfleet does not comprise a settlement boundary. Nevertheless, the island plan does identify the need for 980 dwellings over the plan period, and they would be delivered through the rural service centres and the wider rural area. In addition, members will note that the strategic market housing assessment update identified a need for 37 units per year within the rural sub-housing market, as well as a further 13 affordable housing, and that would be per year. Shalfleet falls within that sub-market. Moreover, Shalfleet Parish Council undertook a housing survey which was published in May 2013, and that identified a need for 24 housing units of different sizes and tenures. According to the survey, young people setting up home and older persons looking to downsize because of children leaving home or due to retirement or lower income would be the groups to benefit mostly from a larger supply of low-cost sustainable housing. In addition to that, persons aged 18 to 29 would be likely to require smaller houses, comprising 1 or 2 bedrooms, flats or maisonettes, while older people looking to downsize would be likely to require smaller houses or bungalows, as well as sheltered housing. So that housing needs survey, having undertaken questionnaires to all of the households in the parish of Shalfleet, identified a need for 24 dwellings based on the results of the questionnaire returns, and the proposed development would directly reflect the requirements of the Shalfleet Parish Council survey. And that relates to 5 years. It doesn't relate to the whole of the island plan period, that relates to a period of 5 years. to that, the development would deliver 75% affordable housing compared to the island plan requirement of 35%. The overall mix of tenure, affordable housing, again directly accords with the findings of the housing survey carried out by Shalfleet Parish Council. In addition to that, officers have carried out an assessment of the applicant's sequential assessment of potential alternative sites within the parish of Shalfleet. As I've said, Shalfleet doesn't comprise any settlements that have settlement boundaries, and instead there are well-established villages and hamlets throughout the parish with varied facilities. The sequential assessment looked at several of the sites that were submitted through the LDF process, and officers have also conducted their own search for previously developed land within the parish that could deliver the proposed development. Officers agree that there are no alternative sites within this parish that could deliver the housing of the quantum proposed. Given the lack of services in other villages and hamlets throughout this parish, and also highway access, and therefore officers agree that there is no sequentially preferable sites within the parish of Shalfleet that could deliver the need established through the parish council's housing survey. Some of the comments received during the planning application did refer to potential for splitting up that identified need through smaller sites, but officers do not consider that a development with such a high proportion of affordable housing and such a specific note of the types of housing required in the parish could be delivered through smaller developments throughout the whole parish. It's considered that because of the amount of affordable housing, it is preferable to site the development as a conglomerate of 24 houses and within the area of the village with the most services within that parish. It should be noted that Shalfleet includes facilities such as the local pub, a church hall, 2 shops, and also the site is directly adjacent to the principal highway, which is Newport and the Ferry, excuse me, and that highway benefits from a regular bus route that has hourly bus service. In conclusion, therefore, officers consider that the principle of the development is established, that it does meet the local need identified through the parish council survey, and that there are no other sequentially preferable sites throughout the parish. In addition, it's considered that the development would deliver a suitable level of affordable housing, and therefore development complies with policies SB1, DM3 and DM4 of the local plan. Turning to design and landscape impact, the application site, as members may have seen on the site visit, is not particularly prominent. It is well screened by existing woodland to the south, east, and south and west, and it's also screened by houses to the east within Shalfleet, which provide their own built context. It's considered the impact on the area would be limited, and that there be no impact on the historic core of the village. I'll just run through some of the slides which shows the proposed development. Officers consider that the layout of the development would be low scale. The development would relate to 17 dwellings per hectare, and is considered that the amount of open space within the site, size of garden areas and potential landscaping around it would soften the appearance of the development, and also provide a transition from the denser layout of Fleetway to the east, and that would allow the development to blend between the village to the east and the rural area that is to the west. In addition to that, the proposed houses would be laid out to complement the area of the rural area. The proposed bungalows would be located on the western side of the development, and therefore in the area where there would be most open views of the proposed development. They would be screened by significant landscaping which could be agreed by conditions, which would also be proposed to deliver ecological enhancements, and I'll touch on that later on in the presentation. Therefore, the proposed 2-storey elements of the development would be located on the eastern side, closest to the existing housing in Fleetway, which provides its own built context. And officers consider that that existing development isn't prominent in the landscape, and therefore that the proposed development also would not be. Just a few slides to go through the rural context of the site then. These are photographs taken of the application site, looking towards Fleetway at the point of the cursor on the right-hand photograph, showing how well screened that is by existing hedgerows. Officers consider that the impact on the AONB would be limited, and it's important to note that the AONB partnership has not objected to the proposed development, given the existing built context of Shalfleet, but also because the site is not prominent, it's also well screened by the evergreen trees that line the boundary of Shalfleet House, which also forms the boundary of the AONB. Officers do not consider that the development would be prominent from longer range views. These slides just show photographs of areas more distant from Shalfleet. The bottom right-hand photograph is taken from Warlands Lane directly to the south of the site, and that benefits from the screening of Pond Close Copse, which forms a sort of L-shaped area of woodland to the south and southwest of the larger field within which the application site sits. That woodland occupies a slight ridge, which I've tried to highlight for the orange dashed line, which probably isn't showing up on your presentation very well. But that ridge means that the application site is also screened by the woodland in the foreground. The left-hand photograph is taken from nearby Station Road at Ingwood, near the primary school, and again, the woodland to the west of the site screens the area of development. The final photograph in the top of the slide is taken from a sort of hollow as you approach Shalfleet. And the reason I took that photograph is just to show screening of the ridge of farmland to the west of the site. So officers do not consider that the proposed development would be prominent or harmful from longer distance vantage points. Therefore, the main impact of the development is from the more localised vantage points, and they would be the A3054 and also the footpath that runs alongside the eastern boundary of the application site. Proposed development would result in housing alongside the highway, but the houses would be set back from the highway at distances of between 17 and 22 metres, and that would allow areas of garden space and landscaping that could be secured by condition to satisfactorily screen the development, but also allow it to blend in with the existing development in Fleet Way. The photographs I've taken looking towards the east of Shalfleet show the existing context of Fleet Way, and it's considered that the development would blend in well with that. It would also be a lower scale. There would not be two-storey housing on the western boundary of this development. It would be proposed bungalows, and therefore it's considered that the visual impact and the landscape impact from closer vantage points would not be harmful. It's also important to note the distance from the application site to the conservation area in Shalfleet and the more historic core of that village. In between that, obviously, is the more modern development in Fleet Way and also the 1950s housing that arrives at Warlands Lane, and that provides a good buffer between the proposed development and the centre of Shalfleet village. And then just a recap of the appearance of the application site, the farmland. In terms of the impact on nearby properties, it's considered that the development would not be harmful to the nearby dwellings within Fleet Way or Shalfleet House. That's because of the separation distances that would exist between the proposed development and those houses. So the slide here shows the distances of between 35 and 40 metres, which is fairly typical of residential housing. That kind of separation distance would prevent adverse levels of overlooking, but also loss of privacy and garden space. And it's considered that the level of screening provided by landscaping would prevent from being harmful to nearby residential properties. In terms of ecology, the application site is located within half a kilometre of the Newtown estuary. That is designated as a site of scientific special interest. It's also within a special protection area. It's also a Ramsar site. It's an important area for wildfowl. There's also an area of sink located to the south. It's important to note that Natural England have not objected to development on the basis of the SSSI or the Ramsar site. Council's ecology officer has also concluded that there would not be pointed designated species, and that the landscaping provided would improve biodiversity of the farmland. It should be noted that it is arable farmland, it's ploughed regularly, the hedgerows surrounding the site are regularly flown, so it's considered that they are of low ecological interest. Just a confirmation of the location of the SPA Ramsar site, that follows the course of Newtown Creek as it comes into Shalfleet, also towards Shalfleet Lake and Hampstead Bridge. And there is also, as I said before, the area of ancient woodland. But because of the separation distances between those areas of designation and the application site, it's considered that there would not be harmful impacts on those areas. In addition, the proposed landscaping would provide biodiversity enhancements that would encourage wildlife corridors through the site. To propose that around the site there would be areas of significant landscaping and also wildflower planting. In addition to that, the applicant is required to provide a contribution towards the solar mitigation scheme relating to the SPA. That's been discussed between local authorities around the Solent and Natural England, and the impacts of additional residential housing are considered to be well known, and because of that, a mitigation pack has been drawn up by Natural England and local authorities, and the planning contribution would go towards implementing those mitigation procedures. In terms of drainage, the application site would include a new swale within the northeastern corner, which I'll show on the plan in a moment. Surface water draining from the site would connect to an existing surface water sewer. The site is not suitable for suds due to the soil structure. It is underlain by clay, and percolation of water is fairly poor in that location, and therefore suds wouldn't work in that location. So I'm just going to show the proposed surface water drainage scheme. Would be that new surface water drains would be provided throughout the site, shown on the plan on the right-hand side of the PowerPoint, and the proposed swale will be located in the north-east corner of the site, and that would be that area, as members would have noted on site, naturally collects water because of the topography of the site. It does drain naturally towards that corner of the site, and so it's proposed that a swale is done to hold water. That would then drain slowly into the existing southern water, surface water drain, which drains down towards the Coolbourne stream. There is a condition on the planning on that officers have advised relating to detailed design of drainage, and that's because certain elements of the drainage scheme will need to be submitted to officers, such as the filters, to make sure that any silt or any oil deposited by cars on the road throughout the site doesn't find its way down into the Coolbourne stream. That can be submitted by condition. In addition to that, the existing surface water drain that runs the length of the A3054 would need to be upgraded. Southern Water have confirmed that that could be conditioned should this receive consent. In terms of foul drainage, Southern Water have confirmed that the application site, apologise for that, could be the drainage to come from foul water could be taken into the existing pipe network. There is sufficient capacity to accept foul drainage from this site, but the existing Southern Water treatment plant would need to be upgraded. Southern Water have confirmed to officers that that would be upgraded by Southern Water at their cost, and that should this development be occupied before those upgrading works are taking place, that Southern Water would have contingency plans in place to cater this development in the meantime. In terms of highway implications, it's considered that the on-site state roads and parking areas would comply with design standards, and that there would be a suitable level of on-site parking. The proposed new access would be at the point of the cursor in the centre of the site, as I've said before, about 100 metres to the west of the existing freeway development. This plan shows the proposed access in more detail. Members will note that a right-hand turn lane is proposed, and that is to prevent congestion to the highway. It is an important principal highway on the highway network, providing providing a link between the Yarmouth Ferry and the West White and of course Newport, and it's proposed that that right-hand turn lane will take traffic off at the highway to prevent standing vehicles. That would prevent prevent congestion. The highway officer has advised that the access is design compliant. It has the required visibility displays. The A3054 is 40 mph limit in this location, and therefore the visibility display should measure 101 metres in length, and the plans confirm that they can be provided. The access would require the removal of the existing hedgerow on the northern section of the site, but that will be replaced by a new verge and with a hedgerow behind the proposed visibility displays. And also just consider that providing a new hedgerow would still protect the landscape character of the area. In addition to that, to improve pedestrian connectivity, the applicants have proposed 2 new bus stops. They would be located about 100 metres west of the proposed access, and the principal of those bus stops has been agreed with both Sun Vectors and also the Highway Authority. To facilitate that, a new pedestrian footway would be provided on the southern side of the A3054, pointing the cursor at the moment, and that would be between the highway and the proposed hedgerows with the visibility displays. Moreover, the applicants have proposed to upgrade the existing footway that aligns the eastern side of the application site at the point of the cursor at the moment, the black dotted line, and that is proposed to be 1.5 metres wide with a bound material. That would provide people living within the development with the choice to walk into the centre of Shalfleet Village, which of course includes the church, shop and pub. And there's a picture below just showing Warlands Lane. It's not proposed to put any footways along the side of Warlands Lane, but as members will appreciate, vehicle speeds in that lane are slow. It's a quiet country lane, and it's not considered necessary to deliver that as part of this development. Thank you, Chairman. This application is recommended for outline planning permission.
Thank you. I'll move now to public speaking. Our first speaker is Richard Still. You have 3 minutes.
I'm opposing this development, Chair, because I do not believe the defining criteria of specific local needs is actually met. You know it's a greenfield site outside the planning envelope and not in the core strategy. Isle of Wight Council also states it has enough land to meet housing targets for the next 5 years. Therefore, there is no need to adopt a presumption in favour of planning permission. No mention is made in the presentation of the Localism Act and the importance of local opinion. Shalfleet Parish Council voiced ours with a unanimous vote rejecting the development. Shalfleet Parish Council survey indicated any local housing need should be met through small infills of up to 10 dwellings, not that there should be 24 built in just 1 to 6 settlements in the parish. There is also a warning that the brakes are on, even for such a modest development, because of inadequate infrastructure. Today's recommendation vitally states this new development requires the demonstration of specific local needs to gain approval. It deals with many issues, as we've heard. The need to lessen dependence on cars is another one. But no one with local knowledge would describe our hourly bus service as good transporting. Try getting to Yarmouth Ferry at a good time. You hang around for 50 minutes. Assurances are given about everything from ecology, drainage, roads, visual impact, etc. But all are secondary. In fact, none of them really count when it comes to the crunch. But this whole matter stands or falls on Shalfleet Parish Council's Housing Needs Survey. In fact, without that, we would not be here tonight. Everyone knows statistics are open to a variety of interpretations. How do we know that 24 dwellings is the best or only analysis of the data? Also, consider the quality of the data. Take a look at the take-up. 698 questionnaires were delivered, 147 completed, a return of 21%. We are told by the officers that this is an acceptable return, likely to provide reliable trends and statistics. However, on Isle of Wight Council website, guidance is given to parish councils on the use of such surveys. This confirms that good results can reflect current and identify future needs, but crucially goes on to say it is important to have a minimum of 50% return for a good result. Good, we believe. On any objective viewing, this survey...
Thank you, sir. I'll move now to Pam Broadhead, Parish Council. Thank you, Pam. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not going to run through our objections because you will take those into consideration when you actually make a decision. However, the Parish Council has asked me just to bring up a few points that we would like to underline. The first one is, if you look at the map, you'll see between 28 and 29 Fleetway, there is a gap. Now that is a privately owned piece of land, and it has been mooted that perhaps it will be a cut through to stop people going on the main road if this planning application goes through Fleetway and into Shalfleet. And it is a concern that that will be used and not be ordered on. I'd just like to point out that, if I may. This means that the householders will have to go down the main 3054, and it's all very well having a footpath to the west, but there's nothing to the east. And if anybody's tried to take a buggy on that muddy verge, they are in serious trouble with that, or people walking on it. And Warlands Lane is always flooded when it's wet. It's a nightmare. The other thing is, over the years I've been a councillor, there have been many times the sewage system in Shalfleet has been brought up. And we have had many conversations with Southern Water that have said at times that yes, everything's okay. Well, ask the people of Shalfleet and you'll find that it's not. There have been times when the sewage has actually had to be pumped out because it's overflowing. The village of Shalfleet has one small shop, parish hall and pub. The other shop is a deli outside the other side of the traffic lights. There are no other facilities at all. The affordable housing is not just for the young, it's for the elderly as well. And the facilities are not good in Shalfleet for that kind, for the elderly people. There's a medical centre in Freshwater, but Yarn and Practice has one doctor when they can get one, and a nurse at Yarn cannot do simple things like change wounds. So everybody would have to go to Brookside if they had anything wrong with them, and the doctor was not available at Yarn. That's all I have to say. I hope we take these points into consideration when we make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll hear now from Sophia Boyd. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, councillors. Nicholas Taylor and Associates Planning Consultants act on behalf of the applicants, the Warlands Partnership, in supporting this application. This development will provide 24 much-needed homes for local residents. Of these, 75% will be affordable. This far exceeds policy DM4, which requires over 35% affordable housing. The new homes have been designed to appeal to young families and couples within the parish, and older couples who wish to downsize, thereby freeing up larger underutilised properties. The applicants are willing to enter into a legal agreement to ensure that people with local connections to the area are given priority to purchase or rent new homes. This could be people who already live or work in the parish, or those whose families are based there but who cannot afford to buy or rent locally. We undertook a public consultation and tried as best as possible to overcome concerns raised by local residents. We've met with Island Roads and Southern Vectus, and provision has been made for new bus stops so that future residents would have convenient access to buses without needing to walk through Fleetway or to use this cut-through. To overcome highway safety concerns, a dedicated right-hand lane will be provided for vehicles approaching from the west. A visibility display will also be provided to ensure vehicles exiting have a clear line of sight. In addition, local residents raised concerns with regards to drainage, and as such the applicant will be trained to system to accommodate the new development. Southern Water are proposing to upgrade the existing water waste treatment works, meaning that there would be sufficient capacity to accommodate the development. The land is arable and as such has limited ecological potential. This has been confirmed by detailed ecology reports which show the development will not affect protected species. We wholeheartedly agree with the planning officer's assessment of the housing and needs as outlined within the committee report. This application will meet the requirement for 980 new dwellings in rural service centres and wider rural area between 2011 and 2027, as required by the Island Plan Core Strategy. It is also important to note that the identified need for 24 local houses has not arisen solely from the parish and council survey, but rather takes account of the 2014 Strategic Housing Market Assessment, the council's own housing register and census data. These sources combined produce an up-to-date and accurate assessment of housing needs within the parish. The 24 local needs dwellings proposed directly address the identified unit and tenure mix required within the area. Essentially, Shalfleet is an ageing parish with the majority of residents aged over 50. Young people who wish to stay within the parish cannot afford to purchase or rent their own homes. Over 50% of those attending Shalfleet Primary School live outside the parish, putting it in a vulnerable position. We respectfully
Thank you. I hear now from Councillor Stewart Hutchinson, local member. Thank you, Street. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, if you thought the last application was bad, we have a real Lulu here. I don't think even Councillor Stubbins did want to live here. The application is parachuted in by an opportunist developer who noted a failed proposal about 1,000 yards to the west. That was from a housing association on a brownfield site, provided community benefit and ensured tenancies for local people. Even that couldn't comply with all requirements, and this application is even less compliant. The development is identical, lifted from the other proposal. It even steals the same designs, which have zero architectural merit, as you will have seen. It is dropped in the corner of a green field on the edge of a village with almost no facilities other than a part-time shop and an expensive gastropark. The site itself has no connection with the rest of the village, completely separated by high hedges and fences. The only route to the village would be a muddy footpath around the edge of an existing estate for hundreds of yards through an open, unlit field onto an unlit, narrow lane with no footpath. It would, in effect, be a disconnected enclave. We're told there's no intention of more housing on this field, but it's designed with 2 roadways giving easy access for extra properties to the south and west. We may not, therefore, believe the assertion. To create road access, the A3054 has to be widened to 3 lanes. There are few passing points on this road. This wider section will be used as one in both directions. New 3-lane roads create a danger where one didn't exist before. The applicant says that this is the best site after a sequential survey, yet he simply copied a previous faulty one which dismisses other sites as unsuitable, but deliberately fails to mention one which is far better. A site at Bolton is dismissed in the report referring to being too distant, yet it is in fact just a couple of miles away and would meet exactly the same local need. That site is on the edge of Yarmouth, a designated rural service centre with a whole range of facilities, needing no change to local infrastructure and very sustainable. That application is not before you yet because our officers have 4 times asked for design reviews over the last 3 years, the last just 4 months ago. So, if officers are being so careful on that, why is this far more unsuitable application now being recommended so soon after presentation, but no analysis as to why this recycled design is so unsatisfactory for its new location? The developer has hastily cobbled together an application by copying inadequate information to try for a quick approval. Approval of it will, of course, deter better planned and located applications, as local need will then be met. And the planning department's letter to the applicant makes that clear. You have no information either from the developer or from your officers as to how these houses will be allocated to meet local need, either initially or when resold or relet. And yet this is the only reason why this application is being considered, and the only possible way it could meet fundamental policy of SP1. All you have is a passing reference to say, this could be secured by a legal agreement. Yet sight of that, even in draft, does not feature as a condition in the recommendation. And yet the applicant was told in writing that the terms of a legal agreement must be provided with any application. And even if there was one, who would police and enforce such an agreement? Not the council, that's for sure. You can't even remedy existing breaches of planning without adding more. So we have here a seriously flawed application seeking development on a greenfield site in the wrong place, no effective relationship with the village of which it is supposed to be part, unsustainable in terms of the negligible village facilities, almost wholly dependent upon car ownership, needing a new, dangerous highway junction, and with absolutely no indication as to how the only reason for the application, which is to provide housing restricted to local people, will be properly and permanently met. As it stands, the application is unsuitable, inappropriate, and incomplete, an asset to no one other than the developer. I urge you to please reject it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll move now to members to have any questions. Councillor Price.
Thank you, Chairman. I know this road very well. The 83054 is a very, very busy road. It's essentially very, very busy when the ferry empties and when people are rushing to it, and obviously the schools unload and so on. I wonder, with the suggestion that 75% of this, which is there's going to be affordable housing, the nearest primary school to that location is Shalfleet Primary School, which is actually in Ningwood. But it's not far away, it's a walk away. How would children be expected to get to school by any other means than the motor car? Secondly, what I'm getting at with that really is infrastructure improvement. The 75% affordable housing that's proposed for this site removes any further suggestion that the developer can actually offer any infrastructure improvement to a small village. I went and counted how many properties are in Shalfleet. Bit sad, I know. But I actually came up with 154 in what we would call Shalfleet. Say I missed 50, then it would be 210 probably. But that means that you're increasing the size of that village by an eighth, with no infrastructure improvement whatsoever. I'm really sorry I couldn't support this application. Thank you.
Mr Murphy.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to come in on the comments from Councillor Price. Just to advise the committee, the observations that there will be no increase in infrastructure provision as part of the application are clearly not correct. The applicant is proposing changes to the access to the highway, and that is part of the infrastructure of the development proposal. And in addition, the report does make it clear that there will be a requirement in connection with the sewage system. That's part of the presentation before you, which is will be a requirement by Southern Water. So that is a change to the infrastructure associated with the site.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, well I'll specifically then address those comments and say that I'm talking about the infrastructure improvements to Shalfleet Village, not the new development. Thank you.
Councillor Gazard.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Hutchinson tells us that nobody but the developer will benefit from this. Well, I would suggest that those requiring low-cost or affordable housing will benefit. Actually, I'm refreshing to get an application that goes way beyond the minimum actually gives us 75% that's in that category. Again, as with the previous application, I will be supporting this. I think it's a good scheme, and I see no valid reason to turn it down.
Councillor Medland.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, following on a bit from what Councillor Price has said, the main thing I found strange was that this application hadn't been looked at in terms of transport links and sustainable transport links. It is a very isolated place if you don't have a car, it's something very obvious. I felt the addition of new bus stops when the existing bus stops at Freeway was already there. There were two very good bus stops there. I find that odd, and that means removing hedges and this sort of thing. And the new footpath on the road, I thought was rather obvious. This road is a particularly important road. It's not just a main road as we pointed out, it's also it's not the coastal route, coastal footpath. It's also the round the island route. And now, I don't know if you've ever walked on this road from Shalfleet to Ningwood. It is actually quite a challenge. It's a steep verge on each side, and you've got a very steep incline to the stream that falls between Ningwood and Shalfleet. It's the traffic. I think I heard 40 miles an hour today, but I thought it was a 60 mile an hour area. It's quite a terrifying place to try and walk from between these two settlements. And this is a major problem because the village school is completely isolated at Ningwood from the rest of the main part of the village. So you have a really big disconnect here. There'll be more housing, there should be more families, but more families will be unable to walk at a very short distance from this new development to the school, or also the road, which is also just down the road in Ningwood. I find it odd we're not thinking about putting a footpath on the inside of the field to cut down the pollution, a number of the particulate pollution, and lead pollution, this sort of thing, which people get obviously by walking next to traffic. I'm wondering why we haven't had a bit more imagination here about how we could take perhaps a cycleway off that very dangerous road and the walkers off that very dangerous road and to connect it down to where it joins up with sort of the crangle bit at the bottom, and you can create sort of a footpath through to the horse groom and the school. I think we're looking at a big missed opportunity. I'm not quite sure how to propose this at this late stage, but I'm very disappointed not to see those kind of innovative things being brought in. It is backed up by our core strategy. We have here the 5228. One of the main strategic areas is general sustainable travel issues, improvements to the road network across zone transport network, 5.229 was this was wide commitment to travel choice and sustainable modes of transport, provides a planning mechanism for these issues to be considered and addressed. I don't think it's been addressed. But I'm not sure what we can do at this stage. I mean, the arguments for this proposal are strong in terms of housing need and what we've heard, but I'm surprised that we haven't got a more robust approach to getting some sort of S106 condition to innovative. We could have made a breakthrough here to connect up the Isle of Wight's coastal path and around the island. We have just missed it completely.
Russell.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's important just to look at the conception of this development, considering Councillor Medland's comments. The actual connectivity to Shalfleet Primary School has been considered by officers, and we did speak to the applicants about potential footpath links to that school, bearing in mind that that school is isolated from most of the properties in the parish anyway, and it's wholly reliant on the car. Unfortunately, farmland to the west of the application site is not in the applicant's ownership, and officers cannot compel the applicants to carry out works on someone else's land. And we certainly couldn't require Section 106 for that. The applicants have proposed an additional footway alongside the highway, and the reason why that footpath is proposed to be against the highway and not on the inside of the hedge is for security reasons. It's for people's security when they're walking alongside that highway at night time. It would not be safe for people to be walking alongside in that area behind a hedge. because there's natural surveillance from a road, and that is known to reduce potential for crime. So that is the reason why that footpath is put in the application. In addition to that, the applicants have proposed to upgrade the footpath that runs alongside the eastern boundary of the site. That would be a balanced surface, and that would give people a choice to walk from the application site into the centre of the village. With regards to the proposed bus stops, they are proposed because there is no pedestrian walkway to the existing bus stop, which is on the other side of Fleet Way. And because it is a principal highway route, and because of the constraints of land either side, it's not possible to provide a pedestrian footway to the east of the site, because that would narrow the principal highway and raise the potential for congestion. So that's the reason why they are proposing bus stops with a design solution for a footpath linking to them from the development. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got Rich Tallis, Councillor Tallis.
Question, first of all. So we're saying there's a need for local housing. What's the employment?
Thank you, Chairman. The answer to that is that the housing survey was undertaken throughout the parish, and the return rate and the fact that a certain amount of people ask for housing in that parish is a direct corollary of the people who have chosen to live and work within the parish because they potentially may work in it, or they may choose not to live in it, and that's the reason why there's 24 houses proposed and not every single person in the parish, because certain people would choose not to live there, other people would. But the importance of it is that the respondents have shown a need for 24 houses. There's a choice on their part that they have a local connection and would like to reside within the parish and continue to do so. And it's highlighted a need for housing for younger families and also older persons who would like to downsize. So I think that's the best answer I can give to the question.
Got Reg Barry.
Can I ask a question? Where does that footpath go? That is a footpath going up the side there. Where does it finish up there?
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. That's a good question. I'll just show you on the slide. The dotted line shows where the footpath currently runs. It is an existing part of the footpath network. It connects to the corner of Warlands Lane, which was just over my shoulder when I took that photograph. It runs through the site and up towards the main road at Shalfleet. And then there is another footpath at the point of the cursor that runs up into the new Town Nature Reserve. But the proposal is that that current footpath would be upgraded so that people could walk down it towards Warlands Lane.
So, as you put on that first picture,
Could you just use your microphone, actually?
if you go back to the first picture, there, so that looks like a nice little tarmac sort of path. So you have a nice tarmac path all the way up to Warlands Lane.
It's not guaranteed to be tarmac. Officers have put on the condition for hard surfaces to be agreed. At the moment it's shown to be a balanced surface. Don't think it would be necessarily correct that it should be tarmac in that rural location, but officers would agree a balanced surface considering the rural location of the area, but also the requirements of the rights of way team.
I just really, you could take that. I think it's wonderful to have all this for Warlands, but you could take that square and put it anywhere between Shalfleet and Yarmouth, in any of the fields along the road there. And it still wouldn't be part of Shalfleet, Mingles, or Yarmouth. That would be in itself an isolated little enclave, social housing, which won't be part of Shalfleet. That's the worry I've got. I think I agree with the Parish Council when you say 24 hours as well is lovely. You know, some in Shalfleet, some in England, somewhere else, and that would be an asset to the villages. As there is now, I can't see anyone living there will feel part of Shalfleet or Ningwood or Yarmouth or anyone else. That you could move that over a quarter of a mile and it would still be what it is. A little square of houses stuck in the middle of nowhere on a dangerous road. That's what worries me.
Thank you. I note the comments, but what I think you're overlooking in those comments. Well, first I just wanted to comment about the dangerous road. Well, you need to bear in mind that they are proposing to put a right turn lane in so that it won't be dangerous for vehicles going in and out, and that's acceptable to the highways officer. So, just as an observation. But I take your point that yes, you could, having identified a need in a parish, you could parachute a site, particularly something shaped like that, a rectangular shape, anywhere on the road of a similar size. However, what you have got here is a site which adjoins a current development. And there are things in that development and there are people living there. So I would say to you, surely that is more sustainable than moving it, say, half a mile along the road and putting it actually in the middle of nowhere, because that would be in the middle of nowhere, and this isn't. This adjoins a settlement. And in terms of the logic, all the planning logic, is you don't put isolated blocks of development on their own in the middle of nowhere. That isn't what's being proposed here. Yes, it's next to a smaller settlement, and indeed this is a much smaller settlement than the settlement we were considering not long ago for another application. But there is development there, and it would be next to that development.
Well, just going back, I can agree with that, but Russell said, well, you can't have a footpath along to Ningwood because you won't be able to light it. You'll be walking up a muddy footpath going that way, absolutely broken. And when you say you can't, where it is, like Fleet, anyway, it's that going that way. Well, in Nettleston, they've got a footpath behind the hedge that goes all the way from the Wishing Well up to the village. That's put in by the parish council 25 years ago. The street lighting is doubled up so it lights a footpath, and that works. Nobody's been raped or murdered or anything up that footpath. So when they say they can't put one along the hedge, which would make the whole thing safer, and you would have a choice of where you went, kids walking to school.
Merited refusing it on that basis as well. I'm sure there's probably an on-balance anyway, and that could be taken into consideration. So, but unfortunately, I don't have a vote. Thank you.
Oh, Mark, probably be the best person to answer. Mr. Whiston, would we be able to control by condition the noise impact?
Thank you, Chair. I think the first point I'd like to make is according to the applicant's figures, they arrived at the EXU noise limit, and according to the applicant's figures, they are compliant by half of 1 decibel. When you take into account the 3 different aspects that I have concerns about, the first one being the distance, measuring to the edge of the property signal house, that reduces that compliance margin to 0.3 decibel. You then have different interpretations and judgments on the type of best fit, statistical best fit curve from the derived background level, and on top of that you have a 3 decibel error margin from the calculation of ISO standard used to calculate emission distance. So the concern I have is that I wouldn't be in a position where, or any condition that is said not be compliant with the EXU guidance, I have concerns that it would be wrong to be setting a limit that I have doubts as to whether it can be compliant with.
Do I have anyone else wanting to speak before we move to a vote? Councillor Nicholson.
I'm not against wind power. And that's it. I'm not against wind power. I'm not against tidal power. I'm very much in favour of generating electricity by alternative means. But what I've heard today, I've got grave concerns about the suitability of the location, the scale of the proposal, the proximity to dwellings, and the environmental impact, not least of all places, on a forest. What on earth were the applicants thinking of proposing to put such a potentially detrimental natural power development next to a place hallowed for nature and its environment and wildlife?
Thank you. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to summarise my thoughts here as well, because I feel this is such a significant application. I in no way understand this application. I came into this room today completely split. In some ways, I'd hoped that given our policy aims, that we would be able to give planning permission to this in order to meet with policy and meet with the commitment that we've given as a council. However, I feel fairly sure from Mr. Wood's comments that we wouldn't be able to mitigate through condition the noise impact on neighbouring properties. I agree with Councillor Stubbings in that I don't feel the impact from the AONB is necessarily the most significant one, and in fact I also agree with Newport Parish Council that I feel that the most significant impact would be on the surrounding area. I will now move to a vote on Councillor.
Access through there. They spoke to people who are in that land, and it's apparently at the current stage there's no reasonable prospect of success of getting any kind of access through there.
My concern is, I think Reg has covered some of it, is very isolated. You've got to drive. I mean, if you go there and you're elderly, I think you'll have to make a decision where the nearest doctor is. If you take children there, I think that would be another consideration for you if you want to take your kids by bus or by car. And I do worry about who's going to live there. It's such an isolated place. The shops are a long way off. The local shop is a walk along a muddy path. I'd like to approve this, but I'm having difficulty. Thank you.
Councillor Ham.
Thank you, Chairman. When we visited this site on Friday, I thought, what a brilliant idea. And when I read about it, I thought, even better idea. You've got a survey that was done by the Parish Council on the need. There is a need. It's not an imposition on the other houses. It fits in well with the area. I know it's very difficult to have amenities, but I've always found with amenities, the more people you get there, the more chance you've got of somebody actually building amenities to go with it. But there is one thing that concerns me, and it has been mentioned, and that's because I'm very interested in the children and young people, how they get to the village school. It's close enough to the village school so that they don't have to provide public transport. So if you get parents that want somewhere to live and they haven't got a car, how on earth are they going to get their children to school? That road is dangerous. There is a lot of heavy transport moves along that road. Ningwood School is just down the road, but it's dangerous to get there. You can't have families walking down that road. It's dangerous. And unless you can find an alternative way, or unless you can guarantee that the council or somebody is going to provide public transport to get those children to the school and home from that school. I just find it very hard because there will be parents on that site who won't have cars. And I'm just very concerned. It's all right if you're elderly, like me, you get a card to travel free on the bus, so that's not a problem. But these young people, the children, won't have a card, or the parents won't have a card. So how are they going to pay every day to take the children to school? It does worry me, and I'd like to see some way. I know they said that the fields opposite or alongside it are not pavable, because you can't, somebody else's field, you can't put a footpath through somebody else's field. But there must be some way of putting a pavement in to get those children to school.
Thank you. I'd just like to follow on from Councillor Howe's question there, if I could. Is there any affordable housing already within the existing estate adjacent to this proposal? And how do children living in that estate get to school at Linwood? And another question relating to the footpaths would be, is there any proposed lighting for the footpath that runs to the south? And if not, is that something that could be included within the lighting condition for some low-level lighting to increase safety running along the edge of that field at the back of those existing properties?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, in terms of the affordable housing in Fleet Way, the straight answer to that is I don't know if there's any affordable housing in that area. I suppose in terms of the actual village school, what's important to consider is what is the existing situation. It is a very well-rated school, it's well attended, and how do existing parents get their children to that school? It's a historic school, it's not in a village settlement. The settlements, the villages nearby, Calbourne, Newbridge, Shalfleet, all have to rely on the existing situation. It would be difficult to provide a footpath to that school. In terms of lighting, officers can consider that, but I think there's a balance between the impact of lighting on landscape character and also the safety of people walking up and down the footpath, but it certainly can be something that can be considered for the existing lighting condition.
Thank you. In terms of lighting, I wasn't thinking of anything that lit up. I was more thinking of, you know, something that would light down and light the path in front of people if they were taking that route at night time. I don't know if that's something that other members would agree with. Councillor Hollis.
Thank you very much. Can we just get up the slide that shows the development and Warlands Lane, etc. on the footpath? Yes, that'll do. When people are walking up that lane, now it's fair called the much vaunted footpath, with or without lighting, which part of it will be an agriculture, it's a farmer's field, so I don't know whether they're going to have lighting along the side of the field, seems a bit odd to that. But where are they actually going to go to? They're going to go up and then round Warlands Lane back to the village. I'm not quite sure about why we are being sold this idea of how wonderful this footpath is, because it doesn't seem to actually take you to the route. I can't really believe people take the far longer route to get anywhere as opposed to a shorter route, which is dangerous on the road. The second thing is the parish. We've been told by people who have very kindly taken their time to come and speak to us, who actually live there, that the parish council wants small developments of building, not a estate plot on the side of the village. And I don't know whether it's a policy to make housing on a village disproportionate to the size of the original historic village, but that's for other people to judge. The school is full. I'm not quite sure where people are going to go because the school is full. And the change to the infrastructure, I didn't quite get Mr. Murphy's argument infrastructure is going, is so that they can actually, one, road, build the development, otherwise it would be a dangerous entrance and they would fail on that. So that's just a requirement to build it. And secondly, the sewage system, well, it's the same thing. This sewage system is having to be upgraded so it can cope with the development. There's no great sort of benefit to the village. So I'm worrying about putting, I can see the argument that yes, there is a need for some low-cost housing, but I think sometimes this gets played out of more proportion because actually a lot of housing on the island is low cost. I mean, you can't build for nothing, and so there is always a cost. I know there are different ways of purchasing, etc. But the concept of, I mean, are we going to go cry for people who want to retire onto the edge of a village? I don't know. And if you've got young families who are struggling, is something plonked on the side of a village without a proper path or whatever to the school and on a dangerous road? Is that really the answer? I think there are so many unanswered questions on this that I rather veer towards what Councillor Barry is thinking. Maybe she does make a change.
Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to comment on being misquoted by Councillor Willis, if I may. I did not say it was a benefit of the scheme. I was responding to a comment from Councillor Price which said the site has inadequate infrastructure and making the point that infrastructure is proposed as part of the development and therefore it will not have inadequate infrastructure. That is mitigation, but I did not call it a benefit. It's required mitigation. Going back to the whole issue of the size of the development, the need for it, etc., and the comment about whether people want to retire to this area, I draw your attention to paragraph 6.20 of the report. It sets out the result of the Shalfleet Parish Housing Survey. This is what the people who live in the area have told us through the survey that they require in their locality. It sets out the type of housing they wish to see. Okay? And the development has brought forward exactly that mix of housing. So it isn't speculative for people who want to retire to the area. It's what the people in the area who bothered to fill in the questionnaire said that they wish to see in the area. So it can't be more expressly meeting a need that's been identified.
Just because the desire is to have a certain number of places of dwellings, but if they thought that this was right, they wouldn't be here. If they thought that this proposal was correct, they wouldn't be here objecting to it.
Sorry, Councillor Hollis, I don't see the 164 people who filled in the questionnaire here tonight objecting to the development proposal.
Councillor Stubbins.
Chair, could I make a general point about the economies, the economics of house building, which it seems to have somehow bypassed some of the members of the committee in terms of the scale of developments that makes it viable for a developer to offer a significant proportion of affordable housing. Because we've heard tonight, on several occasions I think already, that everybody would be quite happy with 2 and 3 built here and there. You can't do that and provide 75% affordable housing. It is simply impossible. And I go back to my appeal on behalf of certain members of my family in relation to the last application. The same question, frankly, Chair. If we don't start to allow some development that comes before us in this kind of application at some point, where will this affordable housing, where will the development on the Isle of Wight, where will our commitment to the housing numbers for which we are at some point obliged to deliver, where will that come from at any point? Because we sit here every time and say this doesn't work for this place, it doesn't fit in this place. We can't have something this big here. And I can only remember one occasion on which I thought that argument was quite reasonable. But most of the time, I just don't get it. I sit on this committee and think, well, are we all going to just die together? That really worries me quite a lot.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm not against this. It's just that I think what I can see sometime down the road that this development is going to cause all kinds of hassle. I would far prefer the idea, like Parish gets it, of spreading affordable housing around. I don't see anything wrong with somebody lives in affordable housing living next to a doctor or a colonel in the army. This idea of dumping them all together in the middle of the country somewhere, to me, is wrong. And I bear that out because people have ever been to Fulham Village and seen what they did there with the affordable housing. And they stuck it behind the wall around the corner so no one could see it. This is what worries me about this. I should support it because 24 affordable houses can't be refused. We do need affordable housing on the island. But it should be done in more spread across widely. I think that's just my view. It's not Liberal policy or anything like that. But I think that it makes a much better village if everybody's all in it together. These people in this site won't be part of the village. If they are, I hope they are. But I got the fear that they won't be. They stuck it on a limb, and then well, it just won't work.
All in it together sounds more like Conservative policy, right? Bill.
Thank you. I just want to try and reassure Councillor Barry, although he did say he's not necessarily against this development. The need has been identified for a level of housing for the locality. That would be then, the way it would be occupied is via the strict criteria that would be laid down in Section 106 agreement. So in the late reps paper, there is more detail about how that would work. So it sets out the connections locally that would need to be demonstrated to take up the affordable units on the development. So what you're actually getting, I don't buy this whole issue about social cohesion, etc. If these are the people from the parish who have said they want to live in their parish, and some of them are saying we will move away if we can't, and you've got a criteria that markets it to them first, I don't see how anybody could say you will end up with any social cohesion problems, because they're the very relatives, etc., of the people living in the locality who will be moving in. In fact, it works completely the opposite way. You're actually keeping communities in the area where they want to live, near their own relatives. So I hope that's a reassurance to you.
Reg, can I just stop you for just one moment? We've gone over the 3-hour mark. I've just had the time pointed out to me. I'm sorry I wasn't looking at it. Can we have agreement to extend? Thank you for trying that. John House, seconded by Councillor Hollis. Everyone in agreement to extend? Yeah. Thank you. Right. Reg.
I was just going to say I would agree with you if the site was in the middle of the village and not stuck out on the end of it on a limb.
Bob.
I'd like to move that the application be approved in accordance with the recommendation of paragraph 8. I'm looking for a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Stubbings. Just got that price waiting to speak and then we'll move to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I think any suggestion that members of the committee are against affordable housing is frankly absurd. The fact is that this is a cluster of affordable houses in a location that is not connected to the nearest village or the local school or any of the other facilities. And that is what the issue is here. And there is no part of this application that allows for any improvement to connect it to the existing community. Quite frankly, going perhaps slightly off on a tangent, if this was for another 10 houses with a footpath all the way into Shalfleet and to the local school and some other things that actually connected it properly, it would actually work better. But this is creating a community isolated from the existing community that if you haven't got a car to get to and from it, you've had it, quite frankly.
I'd like to know any members would support, before we go to the vote, looking at improving the lighting on the footpath down towards Warlands Lane, particularly one that's been involved in this proposal, as I feel that that would enhance the safety aspects and possibly sway other members towards Matt.
Sorry, Chairman, can you just make the point to the committee though that Warlands Lane does not have any pavements connecting to where that footpath is, or any street lighting, I believe, so, which I think is relevant.
I think you just did that, thank you. We'll move then to the vote. All of those in favour of approval, outline approval as per officer recommendation, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those against?
1, 2, 3.
That's carried, that's approved. Thank you, members. Those members that weren't present at the site visit, sorry, did someone abstain?
1, 2.
2. Those members that weren't present would like to leave the chamber, if you so wish, for the next item.
Thank you.